Turn this thing on. Oh, it is on.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. At this time, I'd like to call to order the regularly scheduled Lynn Haven City Commission meeting for Tuesday, October 24th. So I'm calling the meeting to order now. At this time, Commissioner Friend has agreed to lead us in our invocation. If you'd please stand.
Let's pray. Father, we just thank you and we praise you, God, for this day, Lord. We thank you for such a wonderful country that we can come together with and exercise our freedoms, Lord. And as we feel the change of the season in the air, Father, we just know and understand that some things won't change. That's your word, your promises, Father, and we stand on those. Father, we just pray for the military people that are serving, our first responders that are serving our community and our country, Father. And we just pray that you have special blessing and mercy and grace and protection over them, Lord. And God, we just pray for wisdom, guidance, and direction as we go about the city business tonight. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Pledge of allegiance to the flag.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Before I begin the mayor's report, I have two items that we need to look at for this evening's agenda. First of all, if I could have a motion to excuse Commissioner Barnes' absence this evening. He has a work-related conflict with tonight's meeting.
So move.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. And then our other item, our city manager has asked to add an item this evening to the agenda, which will be item 15A, and it is pertaining to, I'm sorry, I just lost the thing there, the approval of the data communications phone system replacement. So if I could have a motion to add this to the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. So if any discussion from the board? Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. And so just to note for those of you who are attending this afternoon, this evening in the public, this will be an added item, item 15A to tonight's agenda, and the subject is the approval of a data communications phone system replacement for the city. And there'll be some discussion, and you'll have an opportunity to ask questions if you need to ask some at that time. So moving on. For the mayor's report, first of all, I have a proclamation. This is Florida City Government Week. There are a lot of activities going on across the state, with municipalities to recognize city government and how it differs from many other areas of government in our country. And before I read the proclamation, I just wanted to recognize our intern who's working this semester and next semester possibly as well with the city. I don't believe she's here, but she's been very busy all day long working with this. Her name is Tia Romano, and she's worked very hard to represent the city. We've had several little events this week, and we still have some planned. And even this morning, she went with me out to North Bay Haven School for an event out there. So she's doing just a great job. And also, she's a former student of mine from Mosley High School, so that even makes it more interesting for me. So the proclamation, whereas city government is the government closest to most citizens and the one with the most direct impact upon the residents, and whereas municipal government provides services, can't see it, and programs that enhance the quality of life for residents, making their city their home, and whereas city government is administered for and by its citizens and is dependent upon public commitment to and understanding of its many responsibilities, and whereas city government officials and employees share the responsibility to pass along the understanding of public services and their benefits, and whereas Florida City Government Week offers an important opportunity for elected officials and city staff to spread the word to all citizens of Florida that they can shape and influence this branch of government. And whereas the Florida League of Cities and its member cities have joined together to teach citizens about municipal government through a variety of activities. Now therefore, I, Margot Deal Anderson, Mayor of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, by virtue of the authority vested in me, do hereby proclaim the week of October 23rd through October 29th, 2017 as Florida City Government Week in the City of Lynn Haven. Encourage all citizens, city government officials, and employees to participate in events that recognize and celebrate Florida City Government Week, and encourage educational partnerships between city governments and schools, as well as civic groups and other organizations. In witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the seal of the state of the city to be affixed this 10th day, since I'm not the governor, the seal of the city to be affixed this 10th day of October for the year 2017. And we've had a really good week. This morning I was able to speak to the 7th grade civic classes out at North Bay Haven Charter Academy, and they were so engaged, so enthusiastic, had so many questions about city government, and many of them are interested already in perhaps even running for office at some point, and also are thinking of helping with some of the campaigns that are coming up in the near future. So they were very excited. I also, on October 17th, had the pleasure, as did many other members of the commission, so I don't want to take the whole story, but we had the ribbon cutting with the Chamber of Commerce for the new playground over at Sheffield Park. It was well attended, and students from Lynn Haven Elementary participated. I had an opportunity to travel with Chris Forehand, a city engineer, and Mr. White, our city manager, over to Destin, and to look at some splash pads firsthand and get some, hands-on look at how they function. I know engineers need to kind of see those things working to get a handle on it, and we have some great ideas, and they're moving forward with that. And I think that's about all that I had that I wanted to talk about. So I'll just pass the next item, which is item number 4, the Commissioner's Report. Commissioner Russell, it'll be your turn.
Thank you, Mayor. I, too, had the privilege of attending the ribbon cutting for the playground at Sheffield Park, and it was a real pleasure to see the mayor and Miss Sheffield both get to cut the ribbon. I also attended a ribbon cutting at Walmart for the new online shopping experience they have at Walmart. And I'm not sure if you're aware of it, but it's a really neat concept. You can go online, pick out what you want to order, pick your time, drive up, and they'll deliver it out to your car for you. You don't even have to get out of the car. Really nice service for Lynn Haven. I also like to thank the fire department for their firehouse luncheon that they had last Friday. Absolutely amazing food. I mean, I can see why a firefighter wants to be a firefighter just for the food they serve. They had homemade manicotti, and it was amazing. I'd like to thank Ms. Richards for helping me with another land use issue, another situation where unfortunately we weren't able to make the landowner happy, but at least he got the answer that he was looking for. I'd also like to thank the city manager and Bobby Baker for a tree issue that we had on 5th Street. We had a tree removed that was diseased, and the property owner asked if we could have the stump taken down. And amazingly, I talked to Mr. White about it Monday, and Tuesday, here it is, the tree's gone, the stump's gone, and everything's taken care of. So thank you, Bob, and thank you, Michael. I also had a call from a gentleman called Mr. Kaiser, who lives on the 700 block of Florida Avenue, expressing his, disdain, is the word I should use, for any events that we do on Florida Avenue. And I know the majority of us think that everything that happens on Florida Avenue is good, and I do believe it's good, but he was complaining that he can't access his house or his apartment during those functions. And he lives, like I said, the 700 block, and he said when they block off the roads, he can't get to his apartment, and he's asked us to consider either shifting it down a little further or moving it completely so that he could get to his apartment. And again, I'm just relaying information that was given to me. And the last thing, I had a meeting with Ben Janke, the CRA director. I know we've discussed this in the past about the money given to different businesses, and I had several questions that Ben sat down with me and explained the answers. And I have a much better understanding of how the CRA works now, and I would recommend each of us to sit down and talk with him if you have not gone through the paperwork. And that's all I've got, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Tender?
Yes, I've got a few things here. I had a gentleman call on me regarding the traffic at the country club, requesting patrol cars out there to slow down people. He says he takes his life in his hands when he goes out walking. And of course, he's not the first person that has mentioned sidewalks out there as well. I also received an email from a lady who lives on 5th in Georgia and about the speeding. And I told her that I think we've got that problem almost solved as far as taking care of that. I also received an email from a gentleman over on Rhode Island, and he wanted us to check in to see if we could come up with some kind of agreement. If the owner of property was willing to pay for the pipe, would the city put it in? His ditch keeps getting dug out and dug out. He lives in a beautiful home, and now he has this huge ditch in his front yard. And I believe we passed that on with photos to you. I've been invited to judge the Halloween costume contest at the Senior Center, and I'm looking forward to that. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. And the other thing that I just wanted to bring up is I would like to ask the commission to consider conducting a forensic audit on the city and on all of our departments. I had personally requested this twice with the last city manager, and with Mr. Russell and myself and Mr. White all being new within the last 6 months, to me, it just makes good common sense to have it done as soon as we can. And with that recommendation, I'd also like to recommend we use a totally different auditing company than what we have over the past years. And I think that's all I have. Yes, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Tender's discussion about a forensic audit, it's something that I remember I brought up when I first was elected mayor, because coming in as the new mayor after 17 years, I felt kind of the same way, that it needed to be a clean slate for me as the mayor coming in, and that was not approved. I was not given a motion to take that further, and also I had also asked about a bid process for looking at maybe a different auditing company. Not that there was anything suspect or wrong with that auditing company. It's just that when you've used the same one for 17 years, it might be, you just want to have another look. So that was my proposal. And so anyway, it was not carried any further. So anyway, I don't know if Commissioner Tender, if you were looking for more discussion tonight or a motion or anything like that, but anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there.
Thank you. Well, if I would just like to have a workshop or anything to discuss it and the value behind it.
And I think that all you would have to do to make that happen is just to request that of the city manager and then go from that point.
Okay.
So.
Consider it requested.
And then, if you don't mind, Commissioner Friend, do you mind before you give your report, if I go back to address one thing in the mayor's report that I left out? Thank you so much. This evening, I was thinking of when to bring this into the meeting, but the mayor's report's the obvious part. I had brought up at the last meeting that we've had several boards in Lynn Haven, our beautification board, our leisure services board, some of and those two in particular that had been inactive really for years, and as everybody knows, the more community involvement we have and the more advice and the more suggestions that we get to the commission, the more we're hearing the voices of what Lynn Haven really wants. So I had asked to put it out on the city website, and also I had it on my social media, inviting people who might be interested in serving on these boards to come tonight to a meeting and to fill out an application. And with the intention, and I kind of want to throw this out here and get the commission's feeling, I have 4 people tonight who are willing to take up the reins of the beautification board, and that would be 4 slots filled immediately on a 5-person board. So I think that's kind of awesome, and I have their names, and then I have one person who who applied to be on the leisure services board. That's the only one so far, and then I have one gentleman here who'd like to serve on the planning commission. So what I wanted to just throw out there, and I'd love to have your feedback. Would it be possible, do you think, for the 4 names for the beautification board in particular, to have a motion to approve them and let them go ahead and think about meeting, or do we need to do a different process? I've got other people who've contacted me via Facebook, phone, and message saying they couldn't be here tonight, but are planning on applying for some of the boards. So what is your feedback? I mean, I would love to see that one board where we've got 4 people, and I would add that they're all personally known to me, all 4 of them. And 3 of them have tried to apply several times in the past and never have been able to get the traction going. So I just don't want to discourage it or let the energy fall. So what are your thoughts? Do we need more time, or is there any discussion we need to have? Do you need to see copies of their applications? What are your thoughts?
If you could read the names to us at least.
Absolutely. Commissioner Tender, what was your thought on it? I didn't.
I was just going to say that.
The same thing?
When you get a volunteer, you need to snatch them up right away or you lose them.
Yeah, there's not a big, for the beautification board, we have Joanne Navarette. She was not able to stay, but she has applied in the past. She's extremely interested in doing it. We have Thomas Knoll. He also had to leave, but he's been interested for a very long time. We have Lisa Carter, who is here this evening. She is works a former colleague of mine with Bay District Schools. And then, oops, did I just drop one? Yeah, there it is. And then we had Linda Reiner. A lot of you probably know her. She's a smiling face at Publix that you see quite frequently. And so those 4 wanted to serve on that board. The Leisure Services Board applicant was Marcy McLean. She is a active duty military wife who lives here and would like to be involved. And then we also have Mr. Dana Evans, who's with us here on the second row, who would like to serve on the planning board. So those are the volunteers that showed up tonight and are very interested in going to work. So,
Well, I would make a motion that we welcome them quickly.
Mayor, if we could we just put it on the next agenda and put all of these together and just fill all the vacancies all at one,
because there
One
are
meeting.
some more coming that are,
Yeah, there might be some more coming and so on. I mean, that's
Sure.
excellent. The beautification board is especially, since that's been
Sure.
vacant for a while. But I think we just put it on the next agenda, and that way we all have an opportunity to look at them, and just anybody else that wants to submit, then boom, it's done.
Then we'd have it all
And they're
on
all
time.
done at the next meeting that way.
I think that, what do you think of that, Commissioner Tender, Commissioner Russell?
That would be fine by me.
Fine by me.
Okay, so if Commissioner Friend could put that in the form of a motion? And
Sure, yes, ma'am. I just moved that we have on our next agenda item filling the vacancies of our open slots on the board.
I'll second that motion with also saying I want to thank y'all for
Absolutely.
volunteering.
Absolutely.
Okay, so there's been a motion and a second. Any discussion from the public? Mr. White, sorry, Ms. Richard?
I just wanted to let you know that we currently do not have on the Planning Commission any vacancies, and we do have a couple of people that are waiting for a vacancy.
Okay.
We have vacancies on the Board of Adjustments, but unfortunately that board doesn't sit very often, but I just wanted to
Okay.
make sure you're aware of that.
So, Mr. Evans, what she's saying is that at this point in time, there's not an opening on that board, but if you wanted to be put on the list,
Yes.
as we're approving, or if you want to apply for a different board, you can just let me know, and we can go from there, okay? And we thank you so much for your willingness. Thank you, Ms. Richard, I appreciate that. Okay, Mr. White, is there any other discussion? Mr. White?
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, and thank you all so much for your, we have 2 boards that haven't met in over 10 years, and so, it's
Yeah.
just exciting to think that we're going to move forward. Thank you guys so much for coming out tonight and applying, and the next commission meeting is the second Tuesday in November, and I'm sure that it will go forward at that point, and we'll have all the board positions filled. Thank you so much. Commissioner Friend, thank you for your patience. Would you be willing to
problem.
give your report at this time?
Thank you, Mayor. Just want to let everybody know we had a great event out there at the Sheffield Park. It was great seeing both mayors out there cutting the ribbon, and you can't help but to look at the park when you drive by, and it is just packed with kids. So that's really great to see. Yes, we attended the Walmart ribbon cutting. That's a great product. We appreciate Walmart, everything they do for our community, and not to mention the city. I know it was mentioned a couple of meetings back, everything they do for our city. Also did participate with the government week, came and got some donuts and coffee. That wasn't very difficult. It was great. And then, tomorrow we have a TPO meeting. Also, along those lines, we'll have one more meeting maybe before, but we do have the MPOAC meeting coming up. It'll be held here in Bay County because it'll coincide with the Transportation Symposium, which we're very proud to have here in Bay County. It's something that I helped work on for several years when I was the chair of the TPO, trying to get that here. We'll have elected officials from all over the state coming to that Transportation Symposium, but also we'll have the MPOAC meeting at the same time, and also Chairman for the Transportation Commission will have his meeting here, which is at the same time. But anyway, so you'll have elected officials not only attending this Transportation Symposium, but they'll have their joining meetings at the same time. And then last thing I'd like to say is we got the Halloween Carnival coming up, and I do have it on good authority that Spider-Man will be there. So, hey, what are you laughing about? A friendly neighborhood Spider-Man friend. We're friends. Anyway, Spider-Man will be there, so please tell all your friends, tell all your kids to come out and see Spider-Man. Anyway, that's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you so much. Item number 5 then will be the city manager's report.
Thank you. This time, I'd like to ask Chief Reamer if he'd come up for this presentation, and also Officer Dutton.
Works a regular shift, he's assigned to our patrol division. I had called him in on his day off to come to the station for a meeting, which he did. And I probably already run his day off. But after the meeting on his way home, he was driving out 231 and he saw a vehicle on the side of the road, thought it might be a problem. So he stopped to see if he could render assistance and found someone in distress that had a flat tire. And he helped this person change the tire. He was off duty, he was in uniform, he was in a patrol vehicle, but he was on his way home to enjoy the rest of the day off. And this is the kind of officer that we like to present to the public because what they do is service above self. It would have been really easy for him to drive by, keep it out of his jurisdiction, he didn't need to stop, and he did. So because he portrays that service above self, he has been nominated for Employee of the Month for the city of Lynn Haven in recognition of your outstanding performance, productivity, and dedicated service. Thank you for your job.
Thank you.
Okay, I'd like to move along to the update on the 809 Pennsylvania Avenue and remind you that's the home for sale directly behind us over here. I went back and working off Commissioner Russell's idea, tweaked it a little bit, and I've come up with a different deal with the seller, and he is responsive to this, so I was going to present it to you today and see if you want me to move forward or what kind of action you may want me to do today. The property behind us actually appraised for $126,000. The home, if you remember, it's a home and with, I think, 0.51 acres. Seeing the city continues to grow every year, it could be a good investment for management later down the road, or the commission later down the road that ties into this area. The seller is kind of stuck on what he wants for the piece of property, which is over market value. So the deal I worked out is to pay $126,000 for the home, allow the person owning the home right now to rent the home for the next 30 months out to the renter, where he could collect his extra revenue he's wanting. He will be responsible paying the taxes, the insurance, the management fee, and all for the next 30 months, and any major maintenance on the property up to will not exceed $500, in a calendar year. So basically, we would own the property and allow them to continue renting it for the next 30 months to receive their money. And, the city will not be out no more money. And considering we would not need the property for the next easy 3 years, I think it'd be advantageous for the city to look at this.
Are you looking for a motion, Mr. City Manager?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. I'm looking for some kind of direction. If you want me to go back again, I'll be more than glad. But I think this would be about the best deal we can. I know the board was set on not paying more than market value. This is a way of not paying no more than market value. However, be able to obtain the asset for future use.
What's the pleasure of the commission?
First, I'd like to thank the city manager for going back and taking care of this and getting the price where we needed it. I'd like to make a motion that we accept his proposal at the $126,000 and then renting the property back, or letting the existing owner rent it for 30 months, as the city manager has directed.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'm a second, so I'll go ahead and second it so we can keep discussing it. Yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. At this time, then, I feel there's some discussion or questions. So here, Commissioner Friend, did you want to pose
Yes.
a question?
Yes, ma'am. I wouldn't want to make a final decision until we've had an opportunity for the attorney to draw up the contract. I'd want an opportunity to look at the contract, make sure he has, drawn it up and we have his blessing on, because it sounds like if we're going to purchase it, it will obviously be deeded over to the city, and then we would lease it to the current owner, and we would allow him to sublease it. Is that pretty much what we're saying? Okay.
In essence, yes.
Yeah. And the only other thing I'd go back with is if we could get 24 months, 126 and 24. But it sounds like you've already negotiated a lot, and I know you're a good negotiator. So.
He's pretty tough.
Okay.
I think they're counting on that rental income for their living expenses. They live in California.
Oh, I got you.
So they count on that revenue to live.
Right. And because in the contract, we wouldn't want to be responsible for, for his ability to rent it. So if that renter moves out, we don't want them to turn to us and say, hey, well, you owe us $500, $800 a month or whatever it is.
And that's one thing that I wanted to make sure with the owner was that it'd just be for 30 consecutive months. If this renter moves out and it takes him a year to rent it, he just loses out on that money.
Right.
When the 30 months is up, it reverts to the city, and we're through.
Right.
Through with the rental.
Okay, so if the motion is to move forward with drawing up the appropriate paperwork to come back for the commission for final approval, I could certainly support that. I don't know exactly if the motion was just to move
I don't
forward.
think that was what the motion said.
I know.
Commissioner Tender, did you have any comments you wanted to add? And then we can look at maybe withdrawing one motion and entering another one, or?
Well, I'm a bit concerned about them having the property, and basically, if we're responsible, are we responsible for everything over $500 in repairs? Is that what you said?
Yes, ma'am.
So-
Not to exceed $500. But he would be carrying insurance on the property as well, so if, total loss or,
We're going to just tear the building down, correct?
we have no use for the home.
So I would hate to see us have put a few $1,000s into
If
an
they-
air conditioner that we're just going to trash 26 or 30.
Well, it could be like we do a lot of the homes, the FEMA homes, we could donate to somebody like ARC, or, we've done that with a lot of the FEMA homes, a lot of the, stuff in homes we've gave to the ARC where they can use some of their facilities.
You said this owner lived in California. Have we ever gotten a name? Who owns the property?
Brian and Gilda Keller.
Thank you.
Mayor, if Rodney would withdraw his second, I'll amend my motion to have the contract drawn and brought back to the council.
Okay, so Commissioner Russell, are you withdrawing the motion that you made?
I think the second has to be withdrawn first,
Well-
doesn't it? No? Okay, then
Motion
yes,
first.
then I'll withdraw my motion.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the motion and the second have been withdrawn, and did you want to propose another motion?
I would move that we direct the city manager to bring the contract back to the commission as he's proposed for us to approve.
Second.
So there's been a motion that, to direct the city manager to go forward with completing a contract and then bringing the contract back to the city for approval, and then there's been a second. So is there any question or discussion from the public? Yes, sir.
Yunt, 210 Lakeview Terrace. And I thought I heard you say that the current landowner would be responsible for taxes.
Yes, sir.
I don't understand how that's possible if the city owns title to it, but if the city were purchasing for $126,000, the option to buy the property for, let's say, a nominal $100 to be exercised anytime after 30 months, that would seem to serve.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Anyone else have a question or comment? Okay, Mr. White, if you would call the roll.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. Go forward and conquer. The motion is approved. Okay, continue then.
Improvements around City Hall. I want to apologize to the commission. It's taken a little longer than I expected to have City Hall kind of tore up. However, I'm hoping within the next 2 weeks you will see a lot of movement. One, replacing a lot of windows in City Hall, being old and the size they are, they have to be made. So it takes a couple weeks to get windows made and put in. So the next route would be to do that, work on the stucco, and then start changing the color. And then once we do that, come back behind with shrubbery, and then start moving to the library, and then, of course, this facility, tying them all together, like I mentioned earlier. Any questions about what we're doing in City Hall area?
Mayor, if I may?
Sure, go ahead.
I just have one question. I noticed that we've removed all the bushes and hedges to make it easier to paint, and I know that, I understand that you're going to be replacing them. My question is, the palm tree that's in front of the city sign, if there's not a sentimental reason that it's there, I would request that we move it either to the rec center or move it to Kensaw Park to go along with the water parks. To me, it blocks the sign and it detracts from the way the city hall is going to look when we're done. But again, that's just a suggestion, and if anybody else has anything to say.
I'll jump in because Mr. White had asked me what I thought about the palm tree being moved, and I said no. And I do believe and I could be wrong, but I do believe there's a great deal of sentimental value to that palm tree. It's been in every photograph of City Hall for as long as I can remember. Now, if everybody in the city says, chop it down, I'm certainly not going to be the one standing. But I think that I applaud Mr. White for what's happening, with City Hall and the two buildings. I think it's going to really create a beautiful new look. But I think that before we remove that large kind of iconic palm tree from, the picture that it's been in forever, that we would need to do some sort of poll with the citizens. So that's just my thought.
And then, Mayor, if I may, I am obviously new to the commission, and I don't know. That's why I asked. I didn't know if somebody planted it there as a.
I may be the only one who feels that way. So.
And if not move it, at least could we move it to the side or behind the sign so it doesn't block the sign? Just to give it a better look. And that's just an opinion I have. I certainly am not going to lose any sleep if we don't.
I certainly respect the opinion. I just think we need to get more opinion from the. Because I don't know if any of you followed the news when they talked about cutting the palm trees down on Harrison Avenue. There was a great outcry, and I really would not want to do that without asking.
Sure. Well, and I certainly don't want to cut it down either. I would, if I was going to do anything, I would recommend moving it.
Okay, perfect.
I can poll the citizens, that's not an issue.
Do you mind giving it a little time and let him just?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's just a suggestion.
Anybody else have a feeling about the palm tree besides me? I'm sorry. Anybody from the public comment about the palm tree? How you feel about it? No, are you? And just over the next day or two, if any of you have input, would you please give a call to the city manager about, how you feel about the palm tree? So it may just be me, so, yes, Ms. Carter? Sure, come on up.
I'm Lisa Carter, 705 Mississippi Avenue. I'm relatively new to the community. I think I've been here about 5 years. When all the shrubbery came away, the palm tree looked quite stark. And then I felt that there must be a vision somewhere where that palm tree was going to be worked in with the new shrubbery that was put there. I personally like that palm tree there because when I'm caught at that red light for several minutes waiting, I roll down the window on that one side and I can hear the birds and then I can hear the chimes. So to me, the word iconic certainly fits it, but I would like to see, maybe we have a blueprint or a printout of what the proposed shrubbery is going to look like to help blend it more in with the building. Those are my thoughts.
Thank you. Sure.
One thing I'd like to meet, we have our new HR manager here, Kelly Battistini. Is that close? Yeah, Kelly comes to us lots of years of service, including, service with Panama City. So we're glad to have you on board. Like to know that the scoreboards are in for the field from Pepsi, if you remember working an agreement with them. So we'll be installing those at the park. Several have already mentioned Sheffield Park, and it continues to be utilized very heavily. The blood drive that we had was very successful. Actually, the first day we had the blood drive, they run out of bags, so that was a good thing. We had that. Cemetery's been doing a lot of work in the cemetery. Hope Cemetery has come a long way, and now we're working on the community cemetery, and it will be dressed up a lot. We're going to go back and plant some plants and try to finish making it, both of the cemeteries, a great place for loved ones to be. It just, there's a lot of grown-up areas that we took care of. And a new program we're offering out at the rec center is flag football. Already got a lot of feedback from it, so we will have flag football this fall with that. And also, the next thing would be the half-cent sales tax update. We have paved 7.35 miles of road, not counting the amount of water lines and storm water that we have done. We've spent $3.8 million, so we've used this first part. I come to you today. I've been talking with engineers and speaking with the contractors over a lot of different things, and they have time, and I've already been working with banks on the next draw of money for January. Hopefully we'll have it around mid-January. Using the same contract that we have in place, which is for this entire project. I've received a letter from Phoenix Construction stating that they will not hold the city responsible for any work if we continue to let them work until after the loan is granted. So they would actually be on the hook until we get it done. I'd like for your consideration and discussion to think about allowing us to move forward with that and only spend up to about $2 million. I don't want to go any further in debt than that. Like I said, I do not see any issue with getting the money as of middle of January, but I think the citizens, I'm getting so much feedback, good feedback, from the roads being paved and a lot of things, and we got a lot of engineering work that's still got to be done. I think it'd be advantageous for us to move forward.
Okay. Is there discussion from the commission?
Yes,
Commissioner
Mayor.
Friend?
Thank you, Mayor. Remind me, City Manager, because you mentioned $2 million. Remind me, what are we thinking for the next loan in January, mid-January?
The next loan, I've been looking at a lot of numbers, and I believe in making sure that we can cover the loan and not outspend the amount of money we guaranteed over 10 years. So I've been compiling some numbers on the debt service coverage, and I like that to be around 1.35 to 1.4. And that way, if the numbers are off a little bit with the collection of sales tax, we got plenty of cushion to take care of us. So with that, we have collected, we still like a couple months behind, but we've already collected over $1 million this year. And, that's kind of through July, August. So we still got, September, October, November, December to get money in. So we're hitting, hopefully, looking at everything, because we got a slow start in January, of course, and some of the other months, but we're hoping to hit around $2 million a year. So that's kind of where my thought pattern came with the $2 million limit, and don't let it go any further until we get the loan in place.
Gotcha. Yeah, because I think 1.7 was the original projections that we were thinking for the revenue, for the tax revenue, or that was the figure that we were doing to be conservative. The next question would be, maybe for the city attorney, would this letter suffice, or, because I certainly don't oppose, let's keep moving. I think this is a very generous offer. But I'll also take the opportunity to say I think this speaks very well of the city, because no one's going to make this offer if the city wasn't as healthy as we were. So good job there. But also contract, would we want to have a contract for this? Or is this letter, you think, would...
Well, the key, I spoke with the city manager earlier today, and the key is if this was part of the original design build
Right.
Bid that we went out with before, and this could be included as a task order, then this would be sufficient. It's an at-risk, basically it's an at-risk arrangement. DOT does these every now and then, where they know there's some funding coming, but they don't have it yet, and the contractors have agreed to do the funding do the project contingent upon receiving funding. Right. This is, an informal letter, but that's what this would function as on a very short-term basis, because I think we fully expect to bring back a financing proposal to the commission, if not before January, certainly in January.
Yeah, great. That's all I have.
Part of the funding is, we've borrowed all we can borrow this calendar year.
Yeah.
We have to wait till January to borrow against it again. So that's part of it. Plus, we got a lot of water and sewer projects we'll be working on through the end of the year. Slip lining a lot of the sewer. So Bobby and Chris are going to have their hands full. But this would help move along getting a lot done.
I would like to just add that I'm certainly in favor of continuing to move forward. Just to refresh the minds of the public, the money that he's speaking of borrowing is against the half-cent sales tax, which is coming in for the next 10 years, $17 to $22 million. And the fact that the contractor, the engineer, the asphalt, everything's mobilized. And so to stop them for a couple of months, to me, we're inconveniencing the residents with the streets that are torn up, plus we're slowing down something that we know is going to benefit us. So, and also I would hate, right now they're mobilizing all over the county trying to do projects, and we have these people in place who are doing a great job for us, and we don't want to lose them to some other project while we're waiting. So I'm certainly in favor of continuing to move forward at the rate we have and rolling that asphalt out as quickly as it'll go.
I agree with you completely, Mayor. I think we should continue on. I have a question, however. Do we have any idea of a timeline when we're going to get to the roads that need pipes? I know right now we're just paving the ones that need to be paved.
We're to that point.
We're there.
So we're ready to start doing infrastructure.
We're to that point already.
Awesome.
This 3.8 took care of 95%, I guess, of all the roads that didn't need, and now we're to the point, and Panhandle Engineers has been doing a good job trying to stay ahead of them.
And
they're moving fast.
Yeah, do we know where we're going to start with the infrastructure?
We'll be following the same map that this will be finishing up some of Phase 1 of C&D, and then we'll start moving into the first part of Phase 2, because the engineers have to stay ahead where they'll know what's got to be done on that road.
Thank you.
Okay. Any more discussion from the commission? Would someone like to put it in the form of a motion?
Authorization. Yeah. I was just going to suggest the motion if...
That's what I asked.
Okay, I'm sorry. I was getting
I just
that
asked
two
for
different...
one.
He was helping me with my motion.
A suggested motion would be to move to authorize continuation of the work that was previously authorized by the design-build contract, of the infrastructure design-build contract, with payment to be delayed until 2018 financing is secured.
So move.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any further discussion from the board? Any question or discussions from the public? There appears to be none. Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes. So motion stands approved. Any more to your report?
The last thing in my report, I'd like for all the commission to know and the citizens to know I've fulfilled my commitment of my contract. I have purchased a house in the city of Lynn Haven, and I'll be living permanent as of Halloween.
Congratulations.
So I've rented my house. I got to get out.
And I understand there's a bunch of FSU signs in your, that you're converting to become Seminole.
Compliments of a particular commissioner, yes.
Excellent. That concludes your report. Congratulations. Item number 6, the city attorney's report.
Yes, ma'am. I just wanted to give the commission a quick update on the traffics workshop from last time. I had mentioned that I would get in touch with DOT and kind of get a comfort level with them. They have refused to return my phone calls despite diligent effort. However, I have found some language in the statutes that allows the city to basically give us jurisdiction over designating intersections as stop signs. So I am much more comfortable than I was before about designating certain intersections as stop sign intersections. And just want to let you all know that, since that's an agenda item tonight. And that's it, Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, moving on then to item number 7. This is a public hearing, and I will open this public hearing at 6:47 Central Time. And this is concerning resolution number 2017-10-700, Water System Facilities Plan and Financial Plan, and action will be required on this when we get to item number 11 for the rest of the commission. Do you have that ordinance now? Resolution, excuse me.
Resolution number 2017-10-700, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, authorizing approval and adoption of the Water Facilities Plan and the Financial Plan for the recommended water distribution system improvements.
Thank you. Is there a discussion? Any questions from the board or the public? Let's start with the board.
I have a question. Is this what you were speaking of a few meetings ago, actually replacing the entire system down on 5th Street?
Let me get the engineer here. He's got more of the direction of.
And I thought I heard a $20 million price tag to this. Is that right?
No, ma'am.
No.
Okay, good. Feel better.
This is just to apply for $3.5 million roughly for the water replacements. It's approximately 8 miles of water main. This has asbestos and cast iron water mains that are 40, 50 years old, need to be replaced.
State revolving fund loan, which is 1% money. So we got to apply for it and then see if we get granted.
Okay, and this just has to do with water treatment plant?
It's just your water lines, the water lines that are in the road in front of everyone's home.
Oh, okay.
Yes, ma'am. So this will replace all of the old asbestos and cast iron water mains.
Okay. So my question is, this doesn't fall under the half-cent
No, ma'am.
sales tax?
No, ma'am. This would become under your franchise for your water. So your water rates would pay for this loan.
Okay. Is that coming back to the taxpayer? How are we getting that money?
It'd be built back into the rates.
Yes, it was part of your rates. And it was already in your capital improvements plan when you established the rates before. You just have not done it until now.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions from the board? Any questions from the public about this? This is a public hearing. So while we have our engineer here to answer questions. Okay. At this time, then, if there are no further questions, then I close this public hearing at 6:49. Moving on to the consent agenda, we have two items. Item number 8, the minutes from the October 10th regular meeting, and item number 9 is the approval of Davis and Fuels for the gasoline and fuel contract for the city. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second for approval. Are there any questions or discussion for any of the items on the consent agenda? From the board? There appear to be none. Are there any questions from the public? And there appear to be none as well. Mr. White, would you please call the roll for approval for the consent agenda?
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. So the consent agenda stands approved. There is no old business this evening. Moving on to new business, item number 10 is the approval of GOS Technology for the Information Technology Services contract for the city. I believe our city manager has a little report or comments about this item.
Yes, ma'am. As stated in the budget, several of the workshops, if y'all remember, the IT here at the city needs significantly upgraded. None of the facilities are connected. By securing this contract with GOS Technology, we'll be able to connect the buildings, share files, and be honest, bring the city up to 21st century. And allow us to also be able to offer more services to the citizens through our website and paying things online. And it's just, we're not connected anywhere, and that really hampers work. So we went out for bid, and we had we had 5 actual companies. 2 of them did not make the qualifications. GOS Technology got first place, Needs Media second, and Maximus 360 came in third. I'd like to submit for y'all to look at entertaining passing this.
Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any discussion or questions from the board?
Mayor, just a clarification. My understanding is that this, the city manager is going to be authorized to negotiate a contract, and that contract will come back to the commission.
Right.
This is for services. So it'd be on an as-needed basis in building in things. It's kind of hard, this was RFQ, it's kind of hard to put a price. I will be adjusting with prices with the company, but it's kind of hard to, not unless y'all want me to come back with the whole proposal, because it's going to be different pieces at different times.
As long as it doesn't go over your authorized spending limit through the purchasing policy.
That's
is
correct.
The way I interpreted it.
That's the way I interpret it,
Okay.
of the 35,000.
Do we have a total price for this project?
The numbers, no ma'am, we have not got them yet. So we're waiting on the contract to do some more due diligence.
Will it be in the contract? The price?
The price, he will submit the prices to me. If they fall within my spending limit, I'll take care of. If not, I'll bring it back to you.
And what is our limit right now on this project?
Well, I'm talking about my spending limit, which is 35,000.
Oh, okay.
On the contract.
Because this was a request for qualifications and it's not an RFP.
And the money's in the budget as well, that y'all have already
Right,
approved.
exactly.
For these services.
Further questions? Any questions from the public? Okay, Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Russell?
Yes.
Commissioner Friend?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Anderson?
Yes, and I want to say how happy I am about the technology improvements because the computer on my desk today locked up in the middle of something and completely shut down and locked me out and would not let me back in. So I was not happy. Moving on to item, I'm looking for better days.
Mayor, if I
Yes.
may, I'm sorry, I meant to say during discussion, just because we've selected this particular contract, and if it works under its current spending limit, doesn't mean that we couldn't call on, if something they can't do or it's not an area of expertise, you could always look to Neves Media to help in other areas as well.
That's correct.
Yeah.
And we're actually utilizing Neves Media, using the budget y'all approved to actually fix all this stuff.
Exactly.
They're
Okay.
working on it right now.
Right, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Item number 11 is discussion and approval of the traffic safety policy and procedures. Just reminding everybody, this is what we've workshopped about regarding making our ordinance for the city less cumbersome, and we've been working on this for a while.
I think you skipped number
I skipped
11,
one?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Oh,
The cost technology.
thank you so much. I just went right on by item number 11. This is the discussion and approval of Resolution 2017-10700 for the adoption of the Water Facilities Plan and the financial plan for the recommended water distribution system improvements. This is what we just had the public hearing on, and that's why I skipped right over it. Sorry. Is there a motion for approval or discussion?
So move.
Second.
So there's been a motion and a second for approval of this resolution. Is there any further discussion from the board or questions? Any further questions from the public? Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, so it stands approved. Now, item number 12 is the discussion and approval of the traffic safety policy and procedures. Do you have a report, Mr. White, there that you wanted to, anything?
Yes, ma'am. Based on the few changes, I made those couple little changes. It was some small words within the policy, and, you know, based on everything that y'all had told me, one of them was, or discouraging cut-through traffic on the first paragraph. And other than that, everything is pretty much the same. If you remember, we initiated this traffic safety where citizen just has to initiate, we do a traffic safety analysis, classify it. The city manager comes back with recommendation, of course, by meeting with an internal committee, which also includes our engineer, and the city commission makes a decision. So it's a very small two-page, and it done away with a lot of red tape on behalf of the citizen, so we hopefully will be able to streamline requests a lot quicker.
So I have a question. Originally, the traffic calming thing that we talked about, the committee was going to be yourself,
It is
Chris, the fire chief, and the police chief?
and Public Works Director.
Okay, and that still stands?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Any other questions or discussion?
I'd like to make a motion we approve.
Second.
There's been a motion for approval and a second. Are there any questions or discussion from the public? Mr. White, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Friend.
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. So it stands approved. I would like to congratulate the commission for the work done on this, getting it done, and making this ordinance something that will serve the residents better. I mean, I think everybody did a really good job, and I'm just so thankful that this has finally been approved. Thank you all so much. Moving on to... Item number 13 is a discussion and approval of 5 previous traffic safety requests. These were the 5 initial ones that I brought to the commission that precipitated the workshop and all of that. And so because they were brought earlier, there's been studies done by the Public Works Department, and that Mr. White is going to read those addresses to you, tell you what was done in these studies, and then present them for your discussion and possible approval. Okay, thank you.
The first item would be traffic study location is Virginia Avenue on 5th Street. We had about 3,859 cars. The average speed, 85 percentile speed was almost 37 miles an hour. Average speed difference was almost 12 miles an hour. Maximum speed was close to 61 miles an hour on the road. It's a posted 25-mile-an-hour road. Based on the committee review, we submit to the commission that we install 2 stop signs at the intersection of Alabama and 5th. This will place 2 four-way stops within 2 blocks of the area. We also recommend placing pavement markers at the intersection as well, where the drivers can see them at night. Based on that, Mayor, do you want to do these one by one, or?
I think we could do them all at once,
All at
and then
once,
if
okay.
there's an objection to one, we could delete one. How about that?
That sounds
Or
great.
one or more, okay?
Okay. The next location is on 802 East 17th Street. We had 4,089 cars. It's a 30-mile-an-hour speed area. Average speed difference was 9.4. Max speed on when we was testing it for those few days was 63.2 miles an hour. Based on the review, we submitted to the commission that we installed 2 solar speed limit signs, one east just before the park and one headed west around the intersection of Arkansas. Additionally, we recommend adding a sign to the solar sign stating "Speed strictly enforced." Third location is on Colorado Avenue. 3,265 cars, speed limit 25, max speed was 47. Based on the review, we submit to the commission that this time we do nothing other than patrol. The city has a solar speed limit sign that flashes cars, and the state law dictates that law enforcement cannot give a speeding ticket unless the driver is 5 miles over the speed limit, and you see by the 85th percentile, there was just over 5.4. So they're right in range, close to range. Next road is New York Avenue. We had 2,590 cars, posted speed limit 25, 85th percentile is 27.7. We did have a max speed of 41, but the average speed difference was only 2.7 miles an hour. So based on the committee review, we submit to the commission that nothing is done at this time other than patrol. And lastly, 1218 Georgia Avenue, we had 985 cars, 25 posted speed limit. 85th percentile was 28.9. Average speed difference was only 3.9 miles per hour. So based on the committee's review, we submit to the commission that nothing is done at this time other than patrol. That will conclude the 5 different roads. And I'll try to answer, with the committee's help, any questions you may have.
Okay. We could entertain a motion to approve in a second, and then we could open discussion or questions.
So move as presented.
Second.
There's been a motion to accept the studies as they are presented and the prescription to fix these situations, and there's been a second. I just wanted to add the first, my only comment, because we have agreed to go with what the studies say and what the committee recommends. On the last 3, Colorado, New York, and the Georgia Avenue, if patrol is going to be our remedy, then let's really patrol it. And that's not a disparaging comment, but let's really patrol it, because Colorado is where I'm getting almost daily complaints. We've had a hit and run on New York Avenue of pedestrians. And Georgia Avenue, sometimes studies don't show everything, and they're getting a lot of cut-through traffic. 985 cars is a lot of cars to go past that little area that we're talking about right there. Those are people cutting through their neighborhood. So I would just say, that's my comment. If we're going to use patrol as the remedy, then let's hopefully see a lot of patrol. Who's next? Anybody else have a comment? Or?
Well, yes, ma'am. I'll just take the opportunity to say I like the way this was presented to the commission for approval, and I'd also just remind the committee that the last thing on this list is any traffic measure deemed appropriate. So I know we're saying patrol on these, and I agree those are hot issues or hot areas. Maybe with the city engineer and involvement, maybe we can get creative, and maybe we can look at those speed humps or narrowing the road, or some of those other things that we brought to the table during the workshop as alternative methods of slowing down the traffic.
Thank you, Commissioner Friend. Yes, ma'am. Anyone else? Anyone from the public have a comment? Yes, Mr. Miller. We're happy to see you here tonight.
Leon Miller, 1508 Mississippi Avenue. I would like to put in a request to see that you make a study on Mississippi Avenue. There's there's bus stop there, kids be out there. So I'm putting in a request that you make a study there.
What address would be good?
15 Mississippi Avenue, from 390 all the way down to 17th Street. And if you get up a study, I'd like to see 2 speed bumps put in there.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Thank you.
And so with the new ordinance in place, ladies and gentlemen, that's all you have to do to implement a study, is what Mr. Miller just did. Okay? Are there further comments about the 5 items that were presented? Okay, Mr. White, would you please call the roll for approval?
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes. Thank you so much. And then item number 15, discussion and approval to officially recognize the City of Lynn Haven Yard of the Month with free utilities to winter each month. On this particular item, we need to strike through free utilities. The attorney advised us that we're not able to offer free utilities based on a decision that was made several years ago. However, we could offer a gift card, and the city manager suggested a gift card in the amount of $100. So that was something that was suggested in place, and I like that. Also, with the caveat that the beautification board would be deciding who the yard of the month is once they're in place, and we're very close to having that. So that's item number 15. So is there a motion to approve that the beautification board would be in charge of doing it, and that's how we would recognize? So
I make that motion.
Second.
there's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any from the public? Okay, Mr. White, if you'd call the roll.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, so that stands approved. And then moving to item 15A, which we approved at the beginning of the meeting. City Manager, do you have a report for this item?
Yes, ma'am. When we went out to bid for the RFQ for IT services, we also went out to bid for phone system. And part of the reason the phone system is antiquated, and you can no longer even get parts for the phone system we have. We have to buy refurbished, hopefully if we can find them on eBay. One of the other things is just like the IT, we cannot communicate between different facilities. So if I wanted to call the police department, which is, Matt Reamer back there, the chief, I want to talk to him, I have to dial an outside number just like a citizen to get a hold of him. I cannot hit something that will allow me to go straight to him. So we went out to bid with that. We had 2 companies that actually put in proposals. It was Converge Networks, and they're out of South Alabama, and then IPC Technologies. After all the scoring, Converge Networks was the one that was awarded based on scoring of the different arenas. However, shortly thereafter, IPC Technologies out of Virginia has contested the RFQ. So what I was asking today is to keep from having to wait several weeks to continue. I would like to see if the board would look at moving ahead with who the staff picked, which was Converge Network, contingent upon the resolution of being able to work through the contestant of the bid itself or the expiration, which will be Friday of this week. So that's the only reason this was added late is to try to see, and we've discussed it with the attorney if he wants to add anything to it.
The only thing I would say is that the bid process, the commission added this, I think in the last year or two. The bid process now requires a bond be posted when they make a formal written bid, and that deadline is Friday, and so, or whatever date the city manager said. And so that'll be when we determine if they really have a serious protest or not.
So for your discussion, possibly, I would like to move ahead and contingent on the IPC Technologies not contesting any further by sending me why they're contesting. We've asked them. We have not received a reason. And number 2, if they do not post the bond and all by Friday, it will expire. So with that, I'd like to try to move ahead contingent to giving it Converge Networks.
Is there discussion or a motion in the direction the city manager is asking?
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we accept Converged Technologies contingent upon IPC not filing a protest. And if they do, I would like to direct the city manager to bring it back to the commission.
Thank you.
I'd also like to note that all 3 of the committee members ranked Converged the #1 choice, just for the record.
Is there a second to Commissioner Russell's motion?
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion or questions from the board? Any from the public? Okay, Mr. White, if you'd call the roll.
Commissioner Russell,
Yes.
Commissioner Friend,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Anderson.
Yes, so it stands approved. And I need to go back one item, I'm sorry I've done this again. The discussion and approval for the Beautification Board committee member applications. At the beginning of the meeting, we decided that we would table that until the next meeting. It was done in the form of a motion, and so that's why I skipped over item number 14. So, yeah, so that's all I need to do, right? I don't need to take it off the agenda.
No, just motion to table. That would be it.
No, we already did that.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying at the beginning. So, okay, so that's why we skipped it. Moving on to item number 16 then, which is public commentary. Is there anyone who has anything that you'd like to talk about that wasn't on the agenda? Yes, Mr. Miller?
Leon Miller, 1508 Mississippi Avenue. Mr. White, City Manager White, you said you are doing all of the cemeteries in Lynn Haven?
Those two are the only two I'm aware of.
Okay. All right. What about this direction to the cemetery?
Sir?
What about direction signs down there to the cemetery?
That's not a problem. That's a great idea.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for that suggestion, Mr. Miller.
And smaller.
Are there other items? Yes, Ms. Carter?
Lisa Carter, 705 Mississippi Avenue. I know we had some discussion about the streets in our neighborhood, and I live at 705 Mississippi Avenue. When I come out and make the left-hand turn, it's where 9th turns into 8th, right outside the country club. This time of year, the sun is directly in your line of vision. So as you are trying to make the left-hand turn, you have almost no visibility for traffic coming around that slight curve out of the country club and off of, I believe it's Colorado Avenue. What might help is the shrubbery that is along the street there, and I know my neighbor has tried to cut it once before, but also could we kind of get people to slow down coming around that area? That's just a concern, because the sun is just dead on right there. You really cannot see them coming as you're trying to come out. And that's about 6:45, about 7 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, so that's the traffic coming out of the country club on the curve, is that what you're asking for?
Or
is it on Colorado curving?
You can't see enough because of the sun, but they're coming around, and some of them got a pretty good speed when they're coming around there. I don't know if you know where that is.
A couple of things. One, right there at the entrance to the country club, we are exploring the possibility of putting a roundabout there.
I have read that, and I'm glad that you mentioned that.
Yes, ma'am. So we're working to that, to do away with those 6 stop signs and the confusion in that area.
And the Dead Man's Island right there in the
Yes,
middle
ma'am.
where you stop and look way
Way
over your
back.
right-hand
Yes, ma'am.
shoulder and hope you can still keep going. That
Yes,
one?
ma'am.
Yeah.
And also, to answer your question a little bit and answer some of your question about the country club, the country club pays the city a little extra to do extra patrolling on there when the officers want to. So I think it's not to exceed around 20 or 25 hours a month. So there is extra patrolling in there. And that's exactly where I'm moving to, is the country club, so I'll be able to help watch traffic as well.
And that's excellent. I do think some neighbors have moved in, and I believe a police officer lives in one of the houses on the corner in that same area, so that's kind of nice to know as well. But, yeah, especially this time of year, the sun, the angle of the sun, visibility is like near zero when you're trying to pull out in there. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Is there anyone else that has anything they want to discuss? Yes, Ms. Harris.
Next Thursday at 7 o'clock at Roberts Hall, the Lynn Haven Heritage Society will be having a public discussion. Paul Vicker of the Sheriff's Office and Sheriff Tommy Ford will be there to discuss scams on the public, and this time of year it's very important. It's rampant. It's a lot of it, and we're hoping that the public will come and learn to avoid these scams.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing that. It can help spread that word. Anyone else? I just had one final thing before I adjourn. The public commentary, I just wanted to get your feedback. Part of our agenda has traditionally come as the last item, and I'm just wondering what would be the feeling of the commission If we were to, in the future, move public commentary to the beginning of the meeting, because I always ask for public input on every item anyway, so I mean, you would still have that input on every item, but if we moved the public commentary about things that are not on the agenda to the beginning, right after the attorney's report, then if there were people who had come just to talk about, one thing, they wouldn't have to sit through the entire meeting to be able to address the commission. What is the feeling of the board on that?
It's fine by me, too.
Is that
That's a great
good with the
idea.
board? Is that good with everyone in the public? I mean, just to have the public commentary at the beginning so that if you had an issue, you could voice it and leave? Then they wouldn't know what was happening. We would force them to stay. Okay.
Yeah, I know a lot of other municipalities do the same thing, and the TPO does the same thing.
To have it at the beginning. And my objection was always because you wouldn't have an opportunity to comment on things that we discussed, but I always ask for everybody's comment on each item anyway, so I think we're okay with that. So, okay, well, I'll direct them about the agenda. I don't think we need a motion or anything. I just wanted your feedback before I ask Mr. White. And then Commissioner Tender has one other thing she wanted to bring up as well before I adjourn. Go ahead.
I wanted to bring this up. I had contacted the city manager regarding this commission going over the charter and going over the ordinance and the code and getting them in place the way recently we've seen they need to be. And I know it hasn't been touched in many, many years. And if anybody read my article, there's things in there about tying your horse up out in front of a business and things of this nature. So I really think that things need to be pulled together. Mr. White instructed me that our city attorney, I had recommended that we get a group of citizens together to start going over it and bring it to the commission, whether it's 2 pages a month, anything would be an improvement. But he said the city manager says that's not a good idea. So I would like to hear from the city attorney why that's a bad idea. And if it can't be done, started there with a group of citizens, then I would like to see the city commission start having regular workshops to work on it, even if it's like I said, even if it's a page a month. I think we need to make some changes that have been long due.
Mayor? Yeah. As far as whether it is a good idea or not, that is not for, that's for you all to decide what's a good idea and what isn't. I can tell you experience with other cities that we represent. Callaway just recently went through a charter revision process, and my understanding from speaking with the Callaway City Attorney is that they originally had a citizens group appointed by the City Commission. That went on for about 1.5 years, the process, and then it went to the commission. There was a change in the commission at that point, and the new commission didn't like the recommendations that were submitted by the Citizens Committee, so they disbanded the committee, and then the new commission wanted to start its own process, and they started their own process, and that has still been dragging on for about 1.5 years. And so those things can drag on, I guess is basically it. My recommendation to the city manager was that have staff go through with commission input. If there's something that's bothering you now, have staff go through the code or charter and make suggestions, then hold commission workshops, because ultimately the commission is who is responsible for the code and the workshop. You can have as many, as input as you need as those workshops, but if you want to keep the process directed and kind of moving along, I would recommend you have staff initially look at that along with commission input, and then bring it to the public for you all's discussion and public input, and then take it to the commission for a vote.
I would like to add, I think that, this is just a little different take on it. Instead of, the charter has been in place for a long time, and I agree with you that there are some disparities between some of our resolutions, our ordinances, and the charter, the code. But I think maybe if we took it in chunks or bites, as we just encountered some differences of opinion about what the charter says about salary and compensation for the commission. So maybe as problems come up, that we find places that it doesn't match, that maybe have a workshop on that item and find a way to make that work. And so, and I know that we've got to do something with how compensation is handled with the commission because of changes in the IRS code, and all of you, as you got your 1099s and trying to reconcile with IRS and all that, you understand that there needs to be some changes. So that's what I would suggest, instead of just saying we're going to do a complete overhaul of our city charter, is as we encounter things that are outdated or aren't working out, then we would just schedule a workshop to find an answer to that. That's my thought.
I love that idea. I think we should start with that one. And then I would certainly like to see the sign ordinance looked at. Signs, yes. That's what brought me to run for office.
The what, I'm sorry?
The sign ordinances.
Sign ordinance. That you can't have a sign outside unless it's bolted onto your wall.
Okay, so I think is that noted that we would look at a workshop maybe in the future in the near future about?
Yeah, I would just like to see something take place, but I like the idea of starting with that one. With the
things
salary,
that we
the
encounter.
stipend thing, yes.
Commissioner Friend, you have any comment, or?
No, I
Commissioner
just
Russell?
distinguishing between the charter and ordinances is all I wanted to make. But I think we did make a sign ordinance change, didn't we, back when you had that issue? 'Cause I'm the one that,
To my knowledge, we did not make any changes because I came before
oh, yeah.
more
yeah.
than once.
No,
Ms. Richard?
yeah, because I kind of championed that.
There was a change because prior to that issue, we, the city, didn't allow any signs like outside of doorways and that kind of thing. You either had to have like permanent signs either on the building or the on the property. And then the code made an addition whereby there can be signs within, I think they have to be within 3 feet of the door of the property, but they can't be left out overnight. They have to be brought in at night. But I think it does also specify that they kind of have to be those sandwich board kind of signs.
A-frames.
Yes, there's a specification of the type of sign, but definitely, I think you probably would have seen by the library. The library puts one out, and also the farmers market had one out, although that wasn't in compliance today because it was more than 3 or 4 feet away from a door. But there was a change made, Commissioner, yes.
Yeah, because when we worked on that, I had your little man in mind that you put your specials on every day. So that's, and then I think there was a retail shop next to you at the time, and I thought it was appropriate that they could put out signs and 3 feet from the door.
So that's citywide now?
Yes, yes.
Was anything addressed about, well, I don't want to get into all that. No, I don't want to get into all that, but I would just like to start somewhere.
Sign ordinances.
Make some kind of difference.
Sure.
Anything else?
And Mayor, just to kind of follow up on the questions, just so the commission understands, and I'm pretty sure you all do, but the charter requires a referendum of the voters to approve any charter changes. The code is completely within y'all's jurisdiction to change anything in there. And as far as the charter change or tax issue that we talked about with the salary and compensation, with the city manager's concurrence, I have been speaking with a tax specialty person about that particular issue, and the goal is to have conclusive advice to the commission by the end of the year, to the city by the end of the year about how to handle that issue from a tax perspective.
Sounds great. Okay.
Mayor?
Anything else?
I believe you've got somebody in the audience.
Sure. Did you want to say something? Yep, come on. Come on.
Silent and quiet. And so maybe that's intertwined with the signs that are out by people's businesses, and people that have a business need to be able to put a sign out.
Okay.
But I mean, somebody can look into that, but I think that's where that might
That could be completely accurate. Thank you so much. Thanks for adding that. Anybody else? Okay, and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.